I think that some of the relevance of looking at Western psychology as not being neutral is still very important to always advocate for, because as you say, and as Professor Bedri so eloquently refers to in his book, the notion of neutrality makes it quite impossible sometimes to speak with Western psychologists and say your psychology is also culturally specific. It is also philosophically specific. It is based upon rationalism. It is, dividing the soul or rejecting the soul from the rest of the body due to the Cartesian dualism and Cartesian split. It is also based upon romanticism, behaviorism, and all the things that also you and Professor Bedri mentioned. So this is a talk we all have.
It's not just that it comes from a particular cultural perspective, but Freud and Watson, as I said, had an agenda to
exactly.
this. Psychology is a battlefield.
Yeah.
And for Malik Bedri's time, Muslims had been massacred on that battlefield because the battlefield was about how do you understand the self. Psychology changes psychology. And Watson, Freud knew this, and there was this agenda to replace a spiritual, God-based sense of the self with something that was, rationalist in inverted commas. And Malik realized it. He realized it was a battlefield, and in a way, as a mujahid, he organized the troops to confront what was happening. And as you say, it's absolutely relevant. It's still, for me, the required reading on any course that I deliver.
MashaAllah. Yeah, I agree. And I like the notion you're saying, Professor Skinner, regarding the battlefield. So, alhamdulillah, participants in this program. We should say, though. Professor Skinner, please round of digital applause again, and we hope that you can stay with us to the Q&As, because I'm sure many of the participants have a lot of questions to ask you, dear excellent Ustad. It's also an honor to have you as a teacher, Professor Skinner. I'm looking forward to learn more from you together with all of our brothers and sisters from all over the world. Barakallahu feekum, Ustad. So without any further ado, we're now going to a next book that we will try to contemplate about. It is actually about contemplation, so it was kind of like interesting to use the word contemplation and contemplate. And this is Dr. Bagus Riyono who will do the presentation. And Dr. Bagus Riyono, and most of you know him, he is the current president of IAAP, the International Association of Muslim Psychologists. He is a lecturer of psychology in Gadjah Mada University, Indonesia, and conducts research on Islamic psychology that touches the following areas: motivation, personality, leadership, and organizational development. As an industrial and organizational psychologist, Dr. Bagus taught organizational change and development as an active and has been an active consultant in the area for some national and multinational organizations in Indonesia since 1995. Besides involving himself in research and teaching, Dr. Bagus is now active in social and academic organizations. He is the president of SIETAR, Indonesia, Society for Intercultural Educators, Trainers, and Researchers of Gerakan Indonesia, Beradab. Please forgive me for my Bahasa once more. I'm going to be fluent soon, inshallah. I will try my best. A national interdisciplinary organization of the Indonesian movement for preserving human dignity. Dr. Bagus also co-founded the Mahad Maqasid in Indonesia, a branch of Maqasid Institute International, in which now he is active in the Maqasid studies for sustainable development with Dr. Ali Abdel Munay. So we are very honored to listen to you again, Dr. Bagus, and Dr. Bagus will do a review of the book of Professor Bedri, Contemplation, an Islamic Psychospiritual Study. So without any further ado, Dr. Bagus, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi asma'in wa ba'du. Greeting, Professor Skinner. Long time no see.
It's lovely to see you, Bagus. It really is.
3 years since we last met in Jogja. Actually, 4 years. Let me share my presentation first so I can refer to it. Okay, contemplation. show. Excuse me. The button is hidden somewhere. There you go. Okay, so since this book it actually is quite also quite influential beside the dilemma of Muslim psychologists, and if you follow this conference since the first day, Professor Rahmatullah Khan also mentioned about this book, and some other speakers also mentions about this book. So I'm trying to present this book from a little bit different perspective, and also try to expand it based on this book, another information or another research concerning this so body and mind connectivity or relationship. Well, if we read the introduction of this book seems to as the reaction to the trends in the Western society that is adopting the Buddhist meditation and Hindu meditation. And Professor Mike Buddy tried to convey that in Islamic tradition, in Islamic teaching, we also have some kind of meditation, but it's not quite like a meditation that is popular in the Western society at that time. I think this book was published around the 1990s. So he explained the principles of Islamic, and he chose the word contemplation to differentiate this from meditation. And he's explaining how the Islamic worldview explain and also guide us how to contemplate. Okay, I will quote some sentences from this book, and let me just go forward. The first part of this book says that at that time, actually, the behavioral movement is quite strong, and people are using behavioral approach in therapy, and they found this approach as an effective in healing some psychological problems, and also helpful for helping patient overcome their behavioral problem. But Professor Wadri said that contemplation is beyond behaviorism. It's something that is not cannot be seen by others, but it's something that is happening inside. So that's why then he explained about the cognitive approach in psychology, or the cognitive movement in psychology, cognitive psychology. And he mentioned that language is a very important, has a very important role in contemplation. So how we understand the words, how we contemplate, actually influenced by the language. And he especially mentioned the Arabic language as a language that is very strong, because it has a very systematic structure, and even not only the word, the letter has meanings. So that's why he wrote that. I would like to play, let the computer read this text.
Therefore, it is these qualities of the Arabic language that made Arabic poetry a perfect art, independent of other arts.
Okay, so in terms of artistic nature of the language, he said that the Arabic language is not comparable with other language, because the beauty of Arabic language is down into its letters, how the not only the word but the letters. So it's very interesting that that language itself has this property. And from what I've learned so far in the Makosit Institute, that Arabic language is actually the one thing that has to be brought up again as a scientific language, because it has the power to differentiate meanings, and also it has the power to convey some moral message through its language itself. So not only the sentence, but also the word. So that's why Prof. Malik Badri mentioned that to really to help us have a higher quality of contemplation, understanding the language is very important. And of course, in the case of Islamic Islamic civilization, a Muslim tradition, the most beautiful language is the Quranic language. So Professor Marwari doesn't directly ask us to read Quran, but he mentioned he explained the fact that the Arabic language is very beautiful. So if you can understand the meaning of Arabic poetry, and then of course if you go deeper, the meaning of the Quran, then it will improve the quality of your contemplation. So contemplation in the thinking of Professor Mike Badri actually relate with, or will bring us to get closer to the Quran in terms of the language and also the message. Okay, now I will quote another one. He said that contemplation is a cognitive activity. So it's something happen inside. Yeah, he doesn't say about it in your head or in your heart, but something inside, something that you yourself, only you yourself can feel it, can experience it. So then he bring the cognitive psychology as the basis of explaining the contemplation, the experience of contemplation. And interestingly, he also mentioned about how the contemplation, actually the consciousness, the conscious thinking, it's very important in shaping your behavior. So let me just read this for you.
Conscious thinking is the activity that usually precedes the feelings and emotional responses.
So in this statement, he tried to explain that what you think will influence how you feel. So what you think will have an impact on your feeling. And actually, this statement has been proved by the latest study of neuroscience by Lisa Feldman Barrett in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, that she mentioned that our feeling actually is our own creation from our cognition. So cognition and feeling and emotion actually is deeply related. So what you think will result in how you feel. Meaning that if you have a problem with your emotion, you have to you have to contemplate about what you are thinking and how you think.
Bagus, can I just ask, because the slides are not changing, should the
Oh,
slides
really?
change?
In your slide,
Sorry.
Jazakallah khairan, Doctor.
But on my screen, it changed. Oh, wait a minute, what happened? Oh, okay, there's a yellow sign here. So let me just unshare it and reshare it again.
Barakallah fikum. Jazakallah khairan, Ustad.
Let me just try it again.
Yes, Doctor, now it's working perfectly. Barakallah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit, not very fluent in presenting this because I'm contemplating. Because it's a very deep thinking, what is Professor Malik Badri writing in this book. So I have to really try to understand what the meaning of what he's writing. Okay, so where are we? We are in this is the Arabic language. Okay, the cognitive approach. And he mentioned that conscious thinking is the one who can impact on our feeling and our emotion. So this is very important. Well, actually, some other scholar also mentioned that that what you think will influence your behavior or whatever. But in this case, emotion, even emotion is something that is influenced by what you are, what you think, your consciousness. Okay. And the most important thing, the most interesting thing, after I contemplate about this book, actually consciousness is not something that, it's not the property of your, it's not something that happened in your brain, but it's the property of your soul. So this is very important. So this book is trying to say that your consciousness is not in your brain, it's in your soul. So it's something that is well, we call it goib, goib. It's, or maybe you can say in your heart, because the meaning of the soul, or if we refer to Imam al-Ghazali's writing, when he talk about the nafs, actually the nafs reside in the heart. So the heart is the place of the nafs. So the nafs and the heart actually two in one. Okay? So when you say consciousness, actually you're talking about the soul or the heart, not the brain, because your brain actually only a mechanistic instrument, organ of your body, but your consciousness is not in the brain, and this can be proved by our experience, daily experience. But sometimes we are not really conscious of what we are thinking, something like that. We are, our thought maybe go here and there, but actually we are conscious about something else. Okay, and actually, and Professor Malik Badri also referred this not only by speculation. This is based on a study that was done by John Eccles. He is also Australian. He Nobel Prize winner on this neuroscience, and he has this conclusion about his study that the brain actually controlled by the self, or he wrote the book, the title, The Self, How the Self Control Its Brain. So brain is an object of the self. It's not the subject. The subject is the self. The self, and a chapter on this book, Professor John Eccles mentioned that what he means by the self is the soul. So Professor Malik Badri doesn't make the claim about the soul based on only speculation or only by dogma or doctrine from the Quranic teaching or whatever, but it's based on science. So this is very important. And I know this book from Professor Malik Badri's book, because I never know that there's a book about this before. So this is very interesting. So that's why I searched for this book and I read, as far as I can read it, because it's a very technical book. It's very, very have a lot of technical language that I don't really understand. But I just want to try to understand the message of this book. Why does he believe that the brain is an object of the self, that the brain is something that is controlled by the self or the soul? And this book is very interesting because it started with the philosophy. He criticized the materialistic philosophy that embodied the current scientific discipline, especially about the brain, that they don't believe that there is something immaterial beyond the material brain. So the first part of this book is criticizing this philosophy, the materialistic philosophy. And Professor John Eccles referred to the philosopher Karl Popper. Karl Popper is the thinker that has this idea about that we are living in our life. We have three worlds. The first world is the material world, and the second world, the world of the ideas, and the third world, something else, something like that. I don't really master that, but actually, with the help of this philosophy, then John Eccles tried to criticize the materialistic philosophy. So actually, what John Eccles did is in line with Professor Malik Badri when Professor Malik Badri criticized the conventional psychology or the Western psychology. Actually, it's not East or West, but it's the secular psychology who doesn't understand, who doesn't believe in the existence of God, doesn't believe in the existence of the the unseen, the unseen power. And John Eccles say that in his research, he found that there's something that influencing the brain. So the brain is not independent. The brain is controlled by something, and he called it's the self. The self is the soul, something that you cannot see. And when he present his research, his ideas, he was confronted by those who have this materialistic philosophy with the physics, the theory of physics, and in the physics, there's a theory, a Newtonian physics. They say that this that the mass is eternal, the energy is eternal, something like that. And then Eccles confront that with another school of physics, which is the quantum physics. So what he met this physician who mastered quantum physics, and he did a work with that physician to do the study about the brain, and with this framework of quantum physics, then he can prove that there is something beyond the material world. So quantum physics is a discipline in physics that based on uncertainty, based on something that is not seen, or maybe some of you, if you study physics, you know about the dark matter, dark energy, things like that. So with the framework of quantum physics, John Eccles proved that his theory is scientific. Okay, so that's why he did a lot of study on this kind of research, and he won the Nobel Prize in 19, if I'm not mistaken, 67. But it's not so popular in our literature. Professor Malik Badri point out this book, and he used this as the argument of how the consciousness actually is the property of the soul. It's not the brain. So this is very interesting. Okay, so by explaining that or referring to that, I would like to read this again so we can listen carefully.
Every intentional action performed by the individual is preceded by an internal cognitive activity. They have also proved that the human mind never stops this cognitive activity at any moment of the day or night, whether the individual is aware of it or not.
Okay, so this is another proposition of this of the book of Contemplation, that our cognitive activity actually never stops. So that's why Professor Malik Badri doesn't agree with the practice of meditation, that people should meditate only in certain time or certain occasion, because our cognitive activities actually is going on forever. I mean, never stop. Okay, so and he explained about the proof about that.
Classic illustration of this is when someone is unable to find a solution to a problem, so puts it aside and moves on to a different activity. Then, suddenly, the solution comes to mind without a conscious effort by that person or any expectation.
Because this is the proof, and I'm sure that all of us may be experiencing this. So we have problem, right? But we haven't solved this problem. And then we move to different activities, and suddenly we have a solution of the problem that we already leave it. I mean, we already moved to another activity, but we found the solution of the problem that we already left behind. So meaning that actually when we have problem, our cognition is working despite what we are doing, what our behavior is doing, like our body is doing something else, but our cognition is still working on that problem. So that's why if we understand this, the characteristic of our cognition, then if we talk about contemplation, so contemplation, if we should do contemplation every time, it's not only in a certain occasion, on a certain place, time, things like that. So this is the difference between contemplation and mindfulness or meditation or yoga, for example. So Professor Malik offers that if we understand how our cognition works, how our mind works, then our contemplation shouldn't stop. We should always contemplate anytime. Okay, so this is the one part of the contemplation about the how and what. Okay, and then he continue with this.
This cognitive perspective clearly supports what Islam had already established, that contemplation, as an internal thought process, is the backbone of faith, which is the source of every good deed.
Okay, if we read carefully about this passage, I think what Professor Malik Badri is trying to say is about the niyat, you know, niyat. How do we pronounce it? Niyat, yeah, in Arabic. So innama a'malu bin niyat. So your niyat is very important because it is the activity of your cognition, the activity of your heart actually. Then it's very important. So this explanation about the cognitive phenomenon actually in accordance with the hadith that's saying that the niyat is very important, because this is the internal process that determine the quality of your behavior, the quality of your deeds, of the good deeds, of your faith. So actually, what is happening in our cognition, even though people doesn't see it, it will determine the quality of what we are doing. Okay. So then we go further.
By devoting their internal cognitive and spiritual aspirations to the contemplation of God's majesty and perfection in contrast to their laxity and unworthy behavior, they will certainly develop the sentiment of love of God and the refined feelings of contentment, happiness, and tranquility.
Now he come to the psychological effect of this contemplation. So once we can do this contemplation correctly, then we are not only contemplating about this world, but then we will reach the connection. We will connect to God, to Allah, because as mentioned in the Quranic verses, especially the Al Imran verse number 190 and 191, it's the contemplation of the day and night, the sun and the moon, and then it elevate to the contemplation about the creator, the God, the Allah, the creator of this universe. And if we can reach that, then our worldly problem, our problems, our limitation doesn't matter anymore, because what is in our heart is the perfection of Almighty God, the beauty of Allah. So our limitation, our bad luck, our whatever problem that we are facing in this world, it's not significant, because our heart is with Allah. This is the ultimate stage of contemplation. How we remember Allah, how we connect with Allah. So this is actually the purpose of this contemplation. So by understanding that, I would say that what Professor Mike Badri means by contemplation, actually it's dhikrullah. It's not only tafakkur, but it's dhikrullah. So tafakkur is also a cognitive activity, but there's also ta'akul, tadabbur. But dhikrullah actually something special, because in the Quranic verse, Surah Ar-Ra'd, number 13, verse number 28, it is said that those who are peaceful is those who remember Allah, and it then repeat it. It's only by remembering Allah you will find peace. You will find tranquility. So this is actually the ultimate mental health, the ultimate health in our psychological dimension. Our heart. It's not about our bodily experience, not about our behavior. It's not about not even about our emotion, but it's about how we connect to Allah. So dhikrullah actually is not just saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah. It's not just in our mouth. It should be in our heart through this discipline of contemplation. So with this contemplation, Professor Mike Badri is trying to explain the method, the how we can do dhikrullah that will cure whatever our problem is in this world, that make our heart be peaceful, qalbun salim, nafsul mutmainah, things like that. Qalbun salim and nafsul mutmainah. So this is very important. But Prophet Mike Badri wrote it in that maybe Muslim is used to the Arabic term and also the conventional teaching, maybe they don't really understand the message, because Prophet Muhammad doesn't write this only for Muslim. He wrote this for everybody. So he tried to bring those who read this book, to bring them into the heart of the Quranic teaching, the Islamic teaching, but not with the language that is strange for them or alien for them. So the language is for everybody, but the message actually is a very Quranic message. Okay. So this is very interesting. And he also then wrote,
The main aim of meditation as an Islamic form of worship is cognitive, intellectual, and spiritual, to elevate the Muslims' cognizance of their creator.
He stressed out again, but that our contemplation, the Islamic contemplation, actually involve cognition, intellectual, and also spiritual. It's not only intellectual. So something deeper than that, because it touch our heart, it touch our soul, and it connects our soul with Allah. So this is a very important message. And then he also explained about the 9 dimension to assess, to do assessment, self-assessment. If we want to make our contemplation in a good quality, we have to be aware of this 9 dimension. The first, the depth of our faith is very influential. It will influence how deep our contemplation. Because we don't have a deep faith, then we cannot see what is beyond the things that we observe. For example, if we observe the sun and the moon, day and the night, if we don't have faith, we just see it as material things. But actually, if we have faith, that we see something beyond that. Is about the Allah, majesty of Allah, creation, and things like that. So the understanding of something beyond what we observe actually depends on the depth of our faith. And then the second one, the depth of our and length of concentration. He mentioned about the personality influence. He said that those who have extrovert personality maybe they have limitation on how to contemplate because they are not used to it. But those who are introvert have a more chance to do contemplation because they tend to read books and deep thinking, things like that. So this is from personality factor. And then the third one, emotional and mental state of the contemplator. Yeah. Okay. So this is also will influence the quality of our contemplation. So we have to manage this. And then also the environment, the environmental factors. Also, if we still have a concern with what is happening to us, where we are, and what is our duty in this life. I mean, like our work, so we are busy with our work, we busy with trying to find something, for living and things like that. Maybe it will disturb our concentration, and then it will influence our quality of contemplation. And then also he said about influence of culture. So some culture, they are accustomed with enjoying the nature. So those culture who enjoy the sunset, enjoy the sunrise, enjoy the mountain and the water, those people, those culture will help the the individual to contemplate more. But those who doesn't accustomed with this kind of activities, maybe it's more difficult to contemplate. Okay, and then a good example. Sorry. Knowledge. Okay, the knowledge. So if we master astronomy, so when we see the stars, we can contemplate deeper than a layperson who doesn't know about the stars. And so the importance of ilmu is also will influence us on the quality of our contemplation. So if we, for example, language, if we then we can contemplate more about the Quranic verse, the message, the meaning behind it, and things like that. So it's why it's ilm, how we understand the object on the subject of study, the discipline of whatever. It will influence the quality of our contemplation. For example, if we study psychology, then we can see deeper about people. If we study sociology, then we can be more sensitive about the society, things like that. So the what we study, what we know, our knowledge also will influence the quality of our contemplation. And then a good examples, our friends. I hope we are in a good community here, because all of us, we want to learn about this. So hopefully if we interact with each other with a deep thought, deep feeling, it will help us to contemplate deeper. And then the last two is nature of the object of the contemplation. So the nature of the object actually related to the knowledge about the object. And then the last but not least is the familiarity of the object of the contemplation. So actually this also related with how we can contemplate closer about Allah in terms of our heart, not in terms of the Zat Allah, but the presence of Allah, the ihsan, for example. If we are familiar with the names of Allah, for example, then we can contemplate more. And if we familiar about our experience in life and we relate it, we connect it to the verses of the Quran. So this is the example of this verse. And so the more familiar we are with the object of contemplation, it will influence also the quality of our contemplation. Okay, I think that's all that I can share today. Wallahu a'lam bishawab. I hope it will help us. And please read the book, because I cannot explain everything there. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear Dr. Bagus. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. Please, dear excellent participant, rounds of digital applause to our excellent teacher, Dr. Bagus. It was amazing, really amazing, amazing.